Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Inclusive Minds platform. I'm honored to be working with Juliet Fahey today to talk about community building through student initiatives. Thank you, Juliet, for taking the time to meet with me today.
Of course, Daniela.
So first, I'd like to start with learning a little bit more about you. Can you please tell us a little more about yourself and how you got involved in different programs at our school?
For sure. Okay, so I'm originally from the US, but I moved to Switzerland when I was in eighth grade, and I've been at Zurich International School since then. But basically, I started becoming like working as a peer mentor because it really interests me and I have like an interest to be a teacher in the future. And this was a great opportunity to test it out and like be a teacher's aide almost. And then that's when the opportunity to lead Best Buddies also came in, which is a club focused on promoting friendships between neurotypical students and then students who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. And yeah, I thought that there was a gap in our school for that, and I was honored to be thought of to lead this club.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about that later on in this interview. So, what inspired you to work with neurodiverse students?
I think I just like I saw like a gap in our school, specifically with students who have or more special needs. Um, During my peer mentoring, I work with them as well. There's about three students in the ILP program at Zurich International School, and yeah, I just thought that there was a gap there, and I was inspired to keep working and keep trying to build um, this closer like connection between the ILP program and just the high school in general.
That's great. And can you please share a meaningful experience you've had while working in the ILP classroom?
For sure. I think it's just so heartwarming. Like every day I walk into the classroom and there's one specific student, Ruby May, who's in seventh grade, but she's always so excited to see me and like shouts out my name, and it just really means a lot and like kind of provides meaning to what I am doing and shows that I have an impact on these students' lives.
That's so nice to hear that you're building such personal connections with the students that you're working with. So, what have you learned from neurodiverse students that you didn't expect at the start of this process?
I definitely think the way they learn is not similar to the way I learn, but I think that's a good thing, and it's opened my eyes to different like possibilities. Um, this might sound stupid, but a lot of times, like the ILP students, they take a lot of breaks between their tasks, but then they come back even more focused to their new like project or what they're working on. And I've kind of almost implemented that into the way I study. And I think taking breaks is like a new way of learning rather than just trying to sit down for like 2 hours consecutively and study. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's great to have that type of opportunity and being able to learn from different people and learn how they actually work best. I think for me, in my experience working with other students and having peers in my classrooms, I've definitely gained a lot of skills and just nice tips on how to study best. Definitely. That's really an interesting point. So, how has this experience changed the way you think about inclusion and education in general?
I think inclusion is like a really powerful thing if it's implemented correctly. I think it can provide meaning for every single student involved, and it's definitely shifted my view on education because I think um, it's just it shows like how through inclusion every student can grow, not just specific students, and it opens everyone's viewpoints. Not, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think this is why inclusive minds is the way it is. I think it really like drives what we do as a community. And yeah, I think it's so important to have inclusivity in our classrooms and to be able to learn from one another every day. That's really powerful. So, more moving on to like the role of teachers. In your experience, what makes a teacher especially supportive of neurodiverse students?
Building like a personal connection with the student is definitely important, and taking it slow and making sure like that the student is comfortable with the teacher is also definitely like a good way and an efficient way to also like get the work done. I've noticed when you yeah, like connect with the student on a deeper level, like less just the baseline of like what you're actually learning, but talk more about their interests. You're able to almost connect with their learning to what they personally do in their free time. I don't know if that makes sense, but then it makes it easier for them to like stay focused.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that circles back to what you were mentioning before about why you love working as a peer mentor and it's building that personal connection. Definitely, I think that's so important. And that's from my experience as a student as well. I've really worked well with teachers who know me on a personal level. And I think that definitely makes our school community more inviting.
Mhm.
So, have you seen examples where teachers and peers work together really well to support a student?
Yeah, for sure. Well, in one of the ILP classes that I'm a peer mentor in, I know my teacher or my teacher, like main teacher in that class, Miss Rowie, really connects with the students um personally when even talking about just like TV shows they're watching, or I remember the other day having a conversation whether the student can ski. It just opens more opportunities for the student to feel welcomed and important in that classroom. Yeah.
Definitely. And what are some ways teachers can encourage more peer mentoring or buddy systems in their classrooms? Because I think this is just such an amazing program, and I hope to one day have more of this around the world.
Yeah, for sure. I think it like by having a student closer in age to the other students in the class is also super beneficial. And I think having like your past students almost come in as well, that might make it easier because they've done the curriculum, they know what's going on in the class, and kind of targeting the older grades that have
Mhm.
maybe more free time or have like already learned the curriculum just makes it easier for the students to come in and help out.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. So I'd love to pick your brain a little bit more on the Best Buddies program.
Hmm.
Um, And what you were mentioning earlier, especially like with clubs and building a stronger school community beyond the classroom environment, more how do we implement more diversity and inclusion in our breaks and in our through our extracurricular activities. So can you please explain what Best Buddies does at your school and why it matters?
For sure. So Best Buddies is it's not a fundraising club, which a lot of the clubs at our school are, and they focus more on communities far away. But I've noticed that there's kind of a missing community within this for the students who are a part of the ILP program. And that's why Best Buddies is so important because it really bridges that gap. And I think before it was very disconnected between the ILP program, the high school, the middle school, but now through Best Buddies, we're able to kind of help the students in ILP adjust to that new high school life, as in a lot of the buddies, like IDD buddies, or yeah,
Mhm.
IDD buddies are now in high school. I've noticed it was a much easier transition by having Best Buddies last year. And it doesn't have to be like you don't have to have events every single month or but even just eating lunch all together and just connecting, it makes it so much easier for them to have a familiar face in the high school. And yeah, I think a lot more people know about the ILP program now because of Best Buddies, and I think everyone's a lot more welcoming and inclusive.
Wow, that's really powerful. So what are some like examples of events you've done? So you mentioned you do lunch, uh, some like lunches with the club. How does that work?
Yeah, so we had like a pizza lunch where I ordered pizza, and I think that just makes it so much more special as well, like a special treat. but we essentially had like all the high school buddies and then also the students who are in the ILP program and have are neurodiverse. And we kind of set them up based on interest and like what they may like, so it's a bit easier to have that connection. And it like was just easy for everyone to connect that way. And but even when we just had normal lunches where people just brought their lunch and just ate together, it was honestly just the same effect as everyone was just connecting and was able to talk about what they like and kind of not focus on that the way they were different, but focus on the way that they're similar through personality.
Right. And how do you see student clubs like Best Buddies contributing to an inclusive school culture? And I know you've talked a little bit about Best Buddies specifically, but do you think it is only for Best Buddies, or do you think we could expand that to other clubs in the school?
I think we could definitely expand it through other clubs, as a lot of the clubs at ZIS are focused on like faraway communities, but I think
Mhm.
focusing more on communities around in Zurich, for example, would
Yeah,
be even more powerful and able to implement that inclusive like um, effect on the school. For example, maybe like the Make a Wish Club at ZIS, which focuses on like providing like help for kids who have cancer, could focus more on like a specific hospital in Zurich rather than one in the US or something. I don't know.
yeah,
That's just a random example.
that's a great point. Thanks for sharing. So, what advice would you give to other schools wanting to start something similar?
Definitely take it slow. I think it was pretty hard to implement last year, but even just having an event every couple of months made it easy. And I think now this year, this being the second year running Best Buddies, it's so much easier already as the students already know what's going on, the upper school students already know what's going on, but also the ILP students have been in this program in Best Buddies last year. And you just have to kind of take it slow and yeah, don't do extravagant events right away. Lunches are like perfectly fine to start off with.
Thanks for sharing. And what would you tell teachers who want to empower peer mentors in their classroom?
You should definitely do it, not only for your own help, but it really impacts the students' um, lives, I would say, as well, and they really gain so much out of this experience too. I know it was a super eye-opening experience for me, and really like made me clear about what I want to do in the future.
That's great. So, how can teachers create spaces where students who are both neurodiverse and neurotypical thrive together?
I would say, um, I don't know, it's a hard question, but you have to kind of take account what everyone needs and focus. You don't want to only focus on specific students and kind of not single them out, but make them feel different. You really got to make sure they are included into the activities too, but like kind of asking them what they need and making sure to connect with them, the students who are neurodiverse.
Yeah, definitely. And I think actually, now that I think about it a little bit more, I think the Best Buddies Club is a great starting point for that because you're not necessarily diving deep into school curriculums and changing how the school actually operates, but it is quite simple, as you mentioned. Like, you could also just do a lunch and have students meet with one another. And yeah, I think that's definitely a great way to start building a more inclusive and tight-knit community.
Mhm.
So, what is one misconception about neurodiverse students you wish more teachers understood, given your um, months and years of experience with this?
As I said earlier, don't underestimate them. Neurodiverse students can do just as much as neurotypical students can, and you shouldn't just single them out and kind of give them the easy way out, but challenge them the same way that you would to neurotypical students.
That's some great advice. So we're nearing the end of the interview, and I'd love to kind of close up and reflect on everything that has been mentioned today, but also touch on a few more points that may also still be relevant to the point of this interview. So, what gives you hope about the future of inclusive education?
Um, I just think even in like starting out small in a high school and just implementing a simple club like Best Buddies, it shows that there is a lot of hope for the future as ILP students can get involved in so much more. Maybe even universities, they might offer specific programs for them. And yeah, I just think it makes me really hopeful that there will be an inclusive environment and these students will feel welcomed wherever they end up.
That's really nice. Thank you for sharing. So, lastly, if you could give one message or a few closing notes or some advice, what would it be?
Um, Definitely get involved and work to create an inclusive environment and wherever you are. It really impacts everyone's lives, and you can see that in such a short period of time. You can really see the change happen and develop through throughout the months of school, and I think it's really heartwarming.
And is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Juliet, for your time today.
Of
I
course,
really
thank you.
enjoyed learning more about your perspectives on neurodiversity and how we could continue building inclusive communities around the world. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.